Right. So yeah, it's been a long while, but life happens. Not just for me, but for the other guys involved in the podcast. So I just want to apologize for not being consistent. We're gonna try to fix that this year. Everybody has things going on in their lives that sometimes takes away from the things that you want to do, and sometimes you have to prioritize certain decisions that you make. Unfortunately, we won't as consistent as we initially set out to be. But we're gonna try to be a little more how to say it, by committed to pushing out episodes a little more often this year, so people could get the content in, and people we could talk to earlier. We could talk earlier a little bit. I really wanted to come here. Well, we in a month right now, June 2024. ICC T20 Men's Cricket World Cup in the Caribbean done. The West Indies and USA. The first rounds, 75%, 80% finish. Most of these spots already taken up. I'll talk a lot about that. Euros started today. The opening game, Germany, Scotland in Munich, I believe it is. The Copa America starts this weekend. The Champions League and, well, all the other European football leagues recently concluded. Madrid won the Champions League. I'm not going to reflect too much on that. That'll be for another episode. But today I just want to briefly talk about the Euros and the Copa, but I wanna stick to the Cricket World Cup, and I'm gonna start right there. The USA West Indies Cricket World Cup 2024 Men's T20. What is that, boy? So let me start with the positives. And as a West Indian supporter, and we are all the podcast crew here. We are all West Indies supporters. A magnificent win against New Zealand is one of the best T20 performances we've seen from the team in a long time. It wasn't a very high-scoring encounter. It was a difficult pitch. The pitch was two-faced, in my opinion. So, yeah, some balls kept low. The ball was turning. There was drift available for the spinners if they kept their line and the delivery right. And Akil Hussain and Udakesh Moti took full advantage of the conditions. The New Zealand bowlers also took very good advantage of the conditions. Trent Bolt, Tim Southee, Jimmy Neesham, these guys are stalwarts for New Zealand. They've been around the scene forever. I think they've probably been around for 10, 15 years, maybe 20, 30 years combined experience in that New Zealand bowling lineup. And then you have Kane Williamson, who's arguably one of the best batsmen in the world. So West Indies came out with a victory. Shameen Rutherford dug us out of a hole. But I don't want to say it was a self-inflicted hole or a self-dug hole, because the conditions were suited to bowling. Yes, some of the shots were poor, but the ball was coming off the pitch a little slower than the batsman expected. So Puran got a small start, but then he gave it away. He was lucky to be dropped with a bullet catching extra cover. Johnson Charles struggled again. We know he scored about 40-something in the recent match against Uganda, but he struggled against Papua New Guinea, and then now he struggled again here. Brandon King was really watching the carnage from his end. But Shameen Rutherford, he put his head down. He batted sensibly. He did what he needed to do. He stayed there till the 16th to the 17th over. Williamson took a brave decision as the New Zealand captain to go for the kill, to see if he could use Trent Bolt and bowl out West Indies. It almost worked. Romario Shepherd got out. Azari Joseph got out, the one that kept low. But they couldn't get Moti. And Rutherford saw them out, and then he punished New Zealand for bowling the part-timers for the penultimate and the final over. Well, Santner is not a part-timer, but the pitch was more suited and for the pace and the medium pace of New Zealand. And Rutherford was set. So he finished off the game with almost 48 balls, and it's 48 runs in the last 2 overs. I give West Indies a competitive total. I was lucky enough that in the match, and while I was there, I was telling my cousin, that's too much runs for New Zealand. They need to get off the flyer to get those runs on this wicket. And so said, so done. It was brilliant bowling by Akil Hussain. I came back home and I watched the game on TV. Akil get real drift. Akil with his arm ball, man swinging the ball. but man moving like Mitchell Stark, but obviously he pulling it a lot slower than Stark. But he's swinging it, the arm ball swinging into here as drift, and it turning off for the wicket. So the ball he pulled Darryl Mitchell, but I watched Mitchell walking out the field, and Mitchell was like, "What you gonna do, boy? You bat in the arm and walk off and go." So congratulations to the West Indies. Disappointed with New Zealand. Yeah, New Zealand got embarrassed, I would say, by Afghanistan. If you talk about a group of death, this was probably the group of death because Afghanistan, as we saw in the 50 over World Cup earlier this year in India, are no walkovers. And they thoroughly deserve to beat New Zealand, and yeah, they qualified because of their victory over last night over Papua New Guinea, again in the Brian Lara Stadium. So let me get to the disappointing parts of the World Cup. I'm gonna do a quick, thumbs down to the local organizing committee in Trinidad and Tobago for they know exactly where I'm coming from. Anybody who went to the game, or anybody who saw the news or the papers last night, or this morning, sorry, would know that the park and rides system that they had to get fans to the venue was a total and abject failure. There's no other way to put it. No other way. I can't even be, a little kind to say it worked. The kindest I could say is that to get to the venue, it worked the way it should have worked for me, but I got there very early. I went with my son, my big son. He's 11. And I didn't want to put him through the rigors of the Real Gasparilla traffic. So the game started at 8:30, but I left home at 4:30 to compensate, for traffic and what may go wrong at the venue to get people there, because we have no control after we jump out of our vehicle. I parked at the petrol train compound. Some people I knew parked at South Park. They reached a little before me, but there was a struggle for them to get a shuttle to get to the venue. Luckily, when I arrived at Petrotrin, I got to the venue really quickly. I got my stuff and I jumped on a bus. It had about 4 or 5 of them waiting there to take us. And the venue was excellent. Everything there, everything, the food, the drinks, it had everything you needed. You could have gone with a small cooler bag with some ice and soft drinks. You could have carried your alcohol in, not a glass bottle, if that's what you're into. And yeah, the access to the venue was easy. It was a long line to go in, but the line moved pretty quick. To me, my line is at about 150 people in front of me, but I was in within 10 minutes. And then the game was excellent. Now let's get down to the real part of it though, the exit at the end of the game, So I told my wife that, it's 20,000 people going to leave at the same time. Getting there is one thing, people reaching at different times. But when everybody's trying to leave at the same time, it's going to be a bit chaotic. But boy, chaotic is an understatement. I just did what I thought was the right thing to do. I knew where the bus dropped off us at the beginning. So I went back to that same location, expecting the buses to be there, or at least some line or some sign or something to say, get your buses here. And I stood there for like 30 minutes. Me, my wife, my son. I was there with friends. One of my friends, he was there with his 5-year-old son. So we had small kids with us. And we were just waiting for the bus to get back to our vehicles to go home. This is a Wednesday. The other day is a school day and a working day for most of us. So we were hoping to get home at least, we give them an hour and a half. Game was finished at 12. I'll get home by 1:30. We stood outside the venue for half an hour, didn't see any buses, so we decided to walk north on the Brian Lara Promenade, not Promenade, the Brian Lara Boulevard, which is the entrance way into the stadium. But it's a pretty long walk, especially when you have small kids with you, so we couldn't go too quickly. And there were thousands and thousands of people lined up on that boulevard waiting for the buses. Nobody knew what was going on. We stopped some law enforcement officers. We asked them. They were kind enough to say, listen, nobody even tell us what's going on. We're just trying to keep some order in the place because we're not too sure where to get the bus or what to do either. Nobody was told anything. One of the officers actually watched us because he saw the kids and he was like, if you want, probably walk out to the highway. Mind you, the highway is pretty far from where we were. We ended up doing it. It took about an hour to get there. Because what was happening is that people were boarding the buses at the highway. Now, I don't think this is something so difficult to figure out. if you are having a shuttle system, right? I know I'm not on the sports right now, but I need to say this because this is the World Cup. And this was the first game, and we have three other games to play this. One played yesterday, one is playing tonight. New Zealand is playing tonight, and then New Zealand is playing also on Monday. And then we have a World Cup semi-final. And I expect the semi-final to be sold out as well. You need to have designated points to do pickup. And you need to have some form of organization where, let's just say you go in South Park, it is assigned South Park shuttles right here. Or you have multiple locations for South Park shuttles, and people line up. Yeah, the line gonna be long, but at least you know what to do now. At least you know, listen, all right, this line long, I could gauge it. And then you have the pedestrian lines, multiple lines, if you want multiple lines to make the lines look shorter, whatever, and you have to wait for your shuttle. Yeah, you would have to wait long because it's 20,000 people, and we understand, listen, it's a lot of people to get out of the venue. But it would have been a lot better watching and knowing that and being able to make a decision or understanding what was actually going on than just being stuck there with nobody knowing where to get these shuttles, where the shuttles were going, what time the shuttles were coming. Because basically what was happening is that the shuttles, as soon as they turned into the Taruba Link Road, they were picking up the patrons who were there, who walked all the way out. Mind you, these people didn't just show up, they walked all the way out there as well. And the shuttles would have just turned around and go back to Petrotrin. So that's all well and fine for the people who walked out, but there was no communication to the other people who decided to stay by the stadium. I spoke to someone today who told me he left the stadium after 3 in the morning and the game was finished at 12. I got to my car at 2:30. And lucky for us, our bus shut down right by the Petrotrin flyover. But all that is said and done, the organizing committee needs to do better. But I had to go into the ICC now, boy. The ICC. Well, the ticket price is too high, I'm going to say it up front. People in Trinidad, people in Antigua, people in Barbados, Guyana, where else have games, boy? Where else have games? Tickets? We don't work for US dollars, yeah? Having a premium seat, $435. Seems kind of high. That's almost $1,000 TT. And all you're getting is a better viewing angle as compared to the standard seat. Luckily, I bought that for $45, which is still not very cheap. Luckily I was able to afford it for me and my family. And the viewing angles that I had wasn't much different. I was very close to the premium. Our section finished probably 10 meters away from the premium seating, which were almost 100 US more. Alright, so the pricing was a little ridiculous, especially for a World Cup in the West Indies where you have local supporters. I understand WIC, not the WIC. I will keep them out of this. I understand the ICC wants to make money. It's a World Cup. It's a premium event. And you want to, 100 US may be a little to pay for someone who works for euros or who works for sterling pounds or Australian dollars or even US dollars. But 100 US isn't cheap. The regular Caribbean person, especially if you want to carry 5 people, that's 500 US in Trinidad. That's over $3,000 just to go to watch your cricket. And you want your local support because there was the reason I brought up that premium section is because it was basically empty. Like, it didn't make sense for people to pay that amount of money and there is no drinks inclusivity or even food or anything. You don't get a bottle of water, you just get in a premium viewing angle behind the bowler's arm. Yeah, we all want that angle, but is it worth paying 90 US more to get that angle? In my opinion, no one. It was there to be seen. The organization of the seating was okay-ish at best. I know some people who had to be relocated because the players' dugouts were blocking them. And they were lucky enough to get relocated to the premium section because there was so much empty space there. So, yeah, the WICB could do better with their prices. Lastly, the ICC. Lastly, I want to talk about this World Cup T20 format. Now, it might seem like I now read this on the papers or saw some article about it, but I brought this up with my colleagues on the sports line at the beginning of the World Cup. And we have, when they show up here, they will talk about it as well or give their comments and opinion. And that's the real reason I make this podcast. And this is the real reason I was like, nah, what nonsense is this? I need to come back here and we need to address this. I like the fact that the ICC is trying to be inclusive by having so many associate nations or smaller nations included into the World Cup. The experience these smaller countries are going to gather from this tournament is going to be tremendous. Growing the sport in the country and improving the sport in the country. Papua New Guinea, Uganda, Canada, USA. Well, again, boy, yeah, it's just not ringing off the top of my head. But you know what I'm talking about. You know, Ireland and Holland, they consistently try to get into the World Cup. You know, Nepal is here, and it's good for the sport. It's really, really, really good for the sport. And why I need to mention this is because the way this tournament was set up was that there's 4 groups of 5 teams, 20 teams in total. And from those 4 groups of 5 teams, 2 teams each qualify for the Super 8 tournament, which would end up being 2 groups of 4 teams. So there's in the Super 8, which we are coming up to, and it's almost decided who's going to be there, is going to have Group A and Group B. The problem here now is that prior to the World Cup even starting, before the first game was even played, which was USA, Canada, and Texas, 8 teams were already seeded. West Indies, Australia, England, New Zealand, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and who am I missing? South Africa. These teams were already seeded, and they were seeded to the point where they already knew the specific opponents you would play once everybody performed as expected. So before the World Cup started, I tell my partners, Carl, and them on this podcast, I told them on a group chat, this thing like it rigged for India, Australia, and West Indies to make the semi-final. Now, don't get me wrong, as a West Indies fan, I want to see West Indies in a semi-final, and I want to see West Indies play in the Brian Lara Stadium in a semi-final. Because we know that's the next thing to be. We'll talk about that rigged of the semi-finals too, because I have tickets for that game. I want to see West Indies play in Brian Lara. That would be real vibes. And to say that I was present for World Cup semi-finals in the Caribbean, not knowing when we're going to get our next World Cup. The last time we had it was 2007. You know, I want to be part of that. I want to remember that. I want to experience that and tell my kids. I want to carry my child and say, hey, we were here. We were there when it happened. But as much as I want that, having those predetermined seats, like it reduces the credibility of the tournament. So let me break this down as simple as possible, and let me look at the West Indies group. So in the West Indies group, West Indies was seeded C2, and New Zealand was seeded C1, which each seed C2 and C1 already had predetermined games in the Super 8 tournament. So C2 would play, I'm just calling random letters here, A1, B2, and D1. And these games are already set to play in Antigua, to play in Barbados. So it didn't matter if West Indies finished first or second in the group. They are C2. And the way the groups were set up, and you look at how the groups were built, it was like, you expect Australia to top their group. You expect India to top their group. So we basically knew beforehand that we're not going to play Australia or India. And even, I'm saying it wrong, even if India or Australia didn't top their group, it didn't change their seeding. So beforehand, we already knew who was going to be the opponents in the second round, which is the Super 8. And we knew for sure that it cannot be Australia and it cannot be India. Now that benefits West Indies, and yeah, I'm happy for that, but that is nonsense. Let me show you. Let me go deeper into why it is nonsense. Today is Friday, the 14th of June. Afghanistan has qualified for the Super 8. Congratulations to Afghanistan. They destroyed New Zealand, even though when New Zealand was seeded. See how that seed making sense now? Let me get into this now. They destroyed New Zealand. They made 150 the bold New Zealand out for less than 80. They had a superior net run rate. They got 2 points there. Then they beat Papua New Guinea and Uganda. So they have 6 points and they qualified. Now, the next game for Afghanistan is against the West Indies. And that should be, as you know it, a very crucial game to determine who tops the table because both teams are on 6 points. And you would think that decide who tops the table, or you would know that, not even decide who tops the table. India and Australia has already qualified, and you know that they're going to be in group, let's just say group B. You would think that Afghanistan would play not to try to bounce up India and Australia in the Super 8, if you get where I'm coming from. Let's beat West Indies to avoid them until the semis and the finals. But no, it's not like that, because the predetermined seeds states that Afghanistan, no matter the result against West Indies, win, lose, draw, rain out, cancel, for whatever reason, will always be in the group with India and Australia. That's just how it is. And the West Indies team will always be in the group with South Africa. Now it's USA because it should have been, let me not say should have been Pakistan. They expected it to be Pakistan, but Pakistan got knocked out today, so it's USA. And then a fourth side, and that is nonsense. Like, you just made a West Indies, Afghanistan table topper group stage match a dead rubber. Why would you do that? Net run rate no longer comes into play. Winning the game is neither here nor there. West Indies will go out and give some players who didn't get any game time, give Shamara Joseph a run. And you give Hitmaya a play and Shia Hope, and you see if you could get them into the side. And while it may be beneficial for the teams, that I don't think West Indies deserve that comfort. We are not outright winners of the group. The group is still up for grabs. But knowing that it doesn't matter if you finish first or second, it doesn't determine your fate in the Super 8s, is utter nonsense. I don't know how the ICC expects to run a credible tournament by predetermining that none of these associate or smaller nations deserve any form of, how to say it, boy, they don't deserve to get an easier part in the finals because you know what? We want India, Australia, and West Indies with viewership in the semis. No, man. You hear these Cinderella stories all the time in football. You watch 2004 Greece, Portugal in the final. Greece won it. What if they told Greece, hey, listen, you have to play Germany, France, Portugal, Spain, Italy before you reach this final because we really don't want you to be there, And that's what it seems like now. They don't really, USA and Canada are invited to the World Cup, but don't run up to find it. Because we don't know if people go watch a USA versus India semi-final. Whenever they use India, a USA versus Afghanistan semi-final. That, to me, needs to be changed. I think the proper essence of a World Cup is to give everybody the equal opportunity to win it based on performance. You don't predetermine who better than who. That's the point of the World Cup. If you're predetermining that these 8 teams are better than the other 12, why even have the other 12 teams here? Just to have more matches? To get more sponsorship over TV rights? To have more commercial spots and to sell more tickets? Like, it doesn't make sense. I want to go and see more cricket games. But New Zealand is playing on Monday, and it doesn't matter the result of the game. The net run rate cannot change anything. There's a game tonight, and it doesn't matter. They are all dead rubbers. And it's all because the WICB has predetermined the fate of the Super 8. And now let's get into the second big issue. India knows that once they qualify for the semi-final, and the ICC has officially stated this, that they will play their semi-final in Guyana. What? So, India needs to qualify for the semi-finals, and they know the pitch that they play in it. Nobody else knows this, though. So, it doesn't matter if India finishes first or second in their Super 8 group now. They already know that they are going to play that semi-finals in Guyana. Now, everybody knows about the Guyanas. Anybody who follows cricket knows about the Guyana's cricket pitch. It is a spinner-friendly wicket. And India, because of that, has picked 4 spinners on their side. So, we need to do better than this ICC. We need to do better. Like you're tarnishing the reputation of your own name, and you're muddying the waters of the World Cup. Us as fans want to see our team, and I want to see West Indies win. But you know what I also want to see? I want to see a fair chance to the underdogs. And I don't want the semi spots be gifted to the big nations, because we have 1.5 billion people in India who want to see that game. You know what used to happen? You think when FIFA hold World Cups in Korea, you know what they do? When South Africa, they cater the needs to the local population, because that's why you put the tournament there in the first place. So if the India fans really love their cricket, they would get up and watch India. The same way we do our things when World Cups were held in Australia and when World Cups were held in India. This is the cricket World Cup. We as West Indies fans get up and watch our games. So, as a West Indian fan, I already know that if West Indies qualifies from the Super 8, I don't want them to play India, because I personally want to see them play in the Brian Lara Stadium. So if India comes first, I want West Indies come first. If India comes second, I want West Indies come second. That is it. Because I don't want them to go get it. That is my personal bias. But my personal bias shouldn't come into the World Cup. And ICC has included the India's fan personal bias into the World Cup. And like I said, sports, it tarnishes the integrity of the World Cup. The ICC is clearly favoring certain teams. It's not just India. It's kind of favored to the West Indies as well. And I don't know. The ICC always has some contentious scores when it comes to these kind of tournaments. And I thought I needed to come out here, and I just needed to get this off of my chest. But whoever watches, and if somebody don't agree with me, you don't have to agree with me, but let me know in the comments below. Let me know what all you think about this World Cup. Let me think. Tell me how all you feel that are young, and because USA has qualified, and Afghanistan, that these smaller sides are not given a fair opportunity as the bigger sides. And it is like you just invite them to make up numbers, like I said, to get more TV spots, and just to try and grow the sport in America. Let me get USA money involved in this thing now. Because we don't have all this money from India. We have this money from Australia, the WICB is a kind of small kind of thing here, this heritage teams, all right, fine. So we get this USA money in this thing. Because we see what they do in USA, right? How the price gouge for the Pakistan-India games. And that's the next thing. The ICC, if anybody from the ICC hears this, why are the group stage matches different prices? Especially at the same venue. Like, I could go and see Papua New Guinea, Uganda, is it? Or Afghanistan, Uganda for $7 US. But the cheapest West Indies game at the same group stage level was 25. Isn't that price gouging? Isn't it the same product on offer? Okay, you want to call the West Indies product a premium product? So why is the India-USA game so expensive? Is it because it have more money in the US to come to the ICC? Yeah. Nah, I'll do better. If I want to grow cricket, if I want to get cricket to the level that football is, you need to do better. And trust me, anybody who's watched football know football corrupted, right? No, not probably not the matches in terms of match fixing, but FIFA is corrupt. You see it in how they award World Cups. And no, I'm not talking about how to give Messi the World Cup. I'm talking about how to give Qatar World Cups and Russia World Cups in front of, who was it at the time? It was England and somebody else. Yeah. I just joking with that Messi comment. Don't hate me in the comments. Don't dislike the video. And yeah, so let me just move on quickly to the Copa America. Not the Copa America. I'll start with the Euros, because Euros starting today. I promise to get back and do a different video on the Copa America. I'll get somebody else to come and sit with me. Germany, Scotland, right? I personally doesn't matter to me who wins the Euros. I'm going to try to be objective. I'm going to put my one bias out there. Everybody who knows me, I'm a Real Madrid fan, and I've watched Real Madrid over the past 20 years, and I've watched some of the best Real Madrid sides in history, and I really rate Tony Cruz. And because the man retiring, and this is the last tournament, I kind of biased towards having him go out, go out with the Euros. But I don't really care about the rest of Germany, Kai Havertz, and them. I really can't see it happening with them. I think France is the out and out favourites. England has a good team, and they have had a good team for the past 4 to 6 years. They're just poorly managed. I think Spain could say something. Portugal, I don't know, but Cristiano Ronaldo, yeah, he scores goals there, but the rest of the team, I think Bernardo Silva is a Pep player. He's brilliant in Man City, and then when he goes to Portugal, he's not the same player. And then, it's a Croatia who's always trying to say something, but how long Luka Modric and them go try to play with that magic. So yeah, France is my favourites. Kylian Mbappe and Harry Kane as joint top scorers. But dark horse is Spain. But if Germany could come out there and pop it first and take home the Euros, some way or somehow, I haven't seen them play in a long time. But I have seen German clubs play. So yeah, if they carry a bunch of them Leverkusen guys, Tony Cruz pulling strings in our midfield, yeah, probably Nicholas Fulkrug up front. That's if they play like that. Jamal Musiala is probably the first or second brightest young talent in Europe. I'll put my biases out there again. I think he's a better player than Jude Bellingham. I think Jude Bellingham just has the English hype behind him. I think Jamal was robbed the Bundesliga Young Player of the Year last year, especially after he scored the winning goal in the last 3 or 4 minutes of a campaign where Dortmund was supposed to win. And Dortmund threw it away in the last game, and then Jamal Musiala scored the winner. He was excellent. He was brilliant. Jude has been brilliant, yeah, but Jamal is a better player. He's a young talent. I should say it like that. Jude is a more center midfielder kind of fella. Anyways, who to look out for in the Euros? Kylian Mbappe, of course. Cristiano Ronaldo, the right of the man, but he just still score goals. Antoine Griezmann, Phil Foden, and Lamine Yamal. That's it for me. See you all this weekend. Later, next video. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to try to be here a little more. It's nice to see when people interact with the videos. If all you don't like anything I see here, if all you want to tell me something about all your experience at the Brian Lara Stadium, feel free to leave it in the comments below. We'll see you all in the next episode.